Well, welcome back, everybody. We're starting to make some big strides on this old cabinet now, and I just removed this clamp from this corner brace. We got that thing cemented in there, so now we have a matching brace for this one over here. And there was one other thing I got done, and that is putting some veneer stripping down in that gap that was between this molding and the cabinet. Got that all cemented down in there real good. It's still in the process of drying right now. It'll be dry in the morning, but that's another job done. And now we're going to do one other thing, and I'm going to let you see me do it. It's time to replace this missing piece of veneer right here. And I always keep a stash of veneer in a drawer of different little pieces here and there. And I kind of keep them just for little projects like this. This is one that the color is pretty darn close to the existing color of the cabinet. And that's what we're going to use. Now what I did was take Elmer's glue and I put 2 applications of it on the bare wood and let it dry, 2 layers. Then I did the same thing to the back of the veneer that I'm going to be using. I sanded this veneer down by hand and just roughed up the surface so the glue would stick better. I didn't, it wasn't any big deal sanding. I just roughed it up and took the sheen off, the gloss. Now what we're going to do, some of you have seen me do this before. I cut a nice straight edge along there, and I used this little deal here. I took this and laid that down there like that, got myself a nice straight edge, and then cut along it with an X-Acto knife. This here, I also got a nice straight edge on, so it has to fit. So what we're going to do is push that thing right on there like so, and we're going to iron it on with wifey's iron right here. I've got it set, no steam. You don't want to use steam, and I got it pretty hot. You want it to be hot enough to where it'll heat up the wood, melt that glue, and fuse it together. Then when that's done and it's all dry, I can go ahead and trim around and use a little sandpaper to shape that thing, put it where put it back in the shape it needs to be. Anyway, I asked wifey, I said, can I use your iron one more time? She said, go ahead, I don't use it. I said, that's true. So let me go ahead and get this set up. Alright, it's now in place. Now when I start putting the pressure to it and the heat to it, I'm going to be pushing on this piece of veneer. I'm going to be pushing in that direction. I want to get it as tight against this seam as possible. Alright, now that I've got it pressed nice and tight against that seam, I hit it on both ends with the tip of the iron, melted it in place, and then let it cool. Now I'm ironing the rest of it flat down. Remember, no steam. She's on there like a rock. You could not pull that off without destroying it. And it's nice and level with the remaining veneer. I like that. Nice and level. I'll be able, when I get time, when I get ready to strip this, it comes time to strip it, you won't even hardly see it after I put the wood filler in. At least that's the plan. But right now I'm taking my X-Acto knife, one of my X-Acto knives. I'm just kind of slowly trimming around it, trying to get it down to the shape I need. And then I will finish it off once I get it fairly close to where it's supposed to be. I'll get out the old moto tool, one of those small sanding drums, and I'll just bring it on around slowly and get it down to almost the shape, and then the rest I'll finish up by hand. Got to be careful, you don't want to destroy any more veneer than was originally destroyed. Yeah, she's beginning to take shape, looking very nicely. I'm taking my time, going real slow, and we'll bring it on around all the way and get it as nice and get it a shape just about like that right there on that one. And I'll tell you what, that's going to look really nice. At least I hope it will. Now, in the process of doing this, it's possible that, maybe an edge of the veneer might lift up on you or something that you thought you had ironed down. Don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. Slip a little glue up underneath there with a knife blade and press it down and iron it again, okay? Or you can go ahead and clamp it down, whichever you prefer. You can use a combination of a fine wood file and some sandpaper to kind of make that edge nice. You don't want the edge slanted on your veneer. You don't want it slanted. You want it to be nice and straight, up and down, nice and flat. You can take a little wood file, kind of help yourself out. Just easy does it. Kind of hard to do one-handed here, but just kind of shape it as you go. You know, there's no rush on this stuff. There's never any rush. Take your time. Look at that. It's coming along nicely. And I'm hardly doing anything to it. Just let that, look at that. Looking real good. Let me go ahead and finish it up. That's about it. Now I detect a slight edge lift right here. Very slight, right there in the corner. So what I'll do is I'll slip a little bit of glue on there like I told you earlier. And then I'll just clamp that one corner down and that'll take care of it. And that'll be just about it. Now let's say in the process of doing this you muff it up. You say, oh man, I messed that all up. Well, guess what? Don't worry about it. You know, don't run downtown and establish a burial plan. Just go ahead and cut it back with the X-Acto knife again. Fit it underneath here with the X-Acto knife. Peel that crap off of there. Sand it down a little bit, make it nice and flat, and start over. Don't worry about it. You know, you can't make it any worse than it was. I mean, there never was a piece of veneer even on there. So you can't make it worse, okay? You can do these things. And you know, when you get done, it's got maybe a little nick here, or the corner's not exactly round. Well, guess what? There's nothing on this cabinet that's exact. This is an old baby, been around a long time, and the cabinet you have might have the same problems. Don't lose a lot of sleep over it. Just do the best you can. If you're a hobbyist, then that's what we are. We're hobbyists. I decided to just, you know, as a little test, to dump a little lacquer thinner on the top of this cabinet to see if it would break through the finish. Or, you know, whether or not it was going to be just, you know, stubborn and I was going to go ahead and have to use paint stripper. Well, it looks like the lacquer thinner on this cabinet is going to do the job. Look at that. Ooh, man alive. Look at that wood. Ooh, that looks so good. So this looks like if the rest of the cabinet cooperates like this, the rest of it's going to be an easy strip. And we're going to have a nice looking set here, I hope. Let's start doing a little wood filling here. I like to use this stainable wood filler by Minwax. Works real good. The only problem is it dries real quick. It's the only thing I don't like about it. So let's go ahead and fill all these little chipped out holes here that were caused by the saw blade. I kind of like it. It spreads easy and the color is good. We're not going to need a whole lot of it on this cabinet. Just enough to, you know, I may have to go back and fill it a second time. Sand's really easy, you know. It does a good job. Go ahead and work on that for a minute and I'll come back. I want to fill some holes in this molding along here too. It's got a hole right there and a hole right there and just here a hole, there a hole, everywhere a hole. That's the end of the first application. I had to wind up doing most of it with my fingers, you know, to get it filled in the way I wanted. Now I'll go ahead and lightly sand all that off and kind of clean it up a little bit, and then we'll see if we need one more application of it. Now keep in mind this cabinet's going to have pastewood filler put all over it. Once everything's dry and it's, you know, looking real good, we'll go ahead and pastewood fill what's left. One of the things I found over the years about working on these cabinets is invariably, after you've done everything you think you need to do, you've clamped all the veneer down, you've repaired all the cracks and all the broken stuff, and you've got it all ready to go, and you're ready to strip, and you're ready to finish, never fails. A piece of veneer decides to lift all by itself somewhere on the cabinet. And that's one of the reasons you go a little slower. You know, give it time for the cabinet to tell you where it needs to be repaired. And sure enough, right here at the corner where I'm going to have to put a little glue anyway, and then clamp that down just a little tad right down below it. Look at there. Look at that. This was not like it the other day. What I have here is a piece of veneer. Let's see if I can zoom in on that without blurring it up too much. There's a piece of veneer right there that wants to, all of a sudden it decided to lift. Well, I'm just going to go ahead, while I'm clamping this down, I'll clamp that down also. Kind of lucky it was in the same area actually. I let this filler dry overnight, and now I have one of those sponge sandpaper blocks, sponge sanding blocks. They work real good because they got a nice flat surface on them, you know. You don't have to worry too much about the paper bending or anything. And it's just a matter of, it just sands down real fast, this filler does. This wood filler just sands really quick. So let me go ahead and finish that up. That's it on the initial fill and sanding. What I'm going to do now is just take a very small, thin, just a little bit on my thumb and just kind of wipe it across there to back and forth a couple of times to get any minor, spots that didn't take the filler too well. And then after I put the pastewood filler on, it should smooth out really nice. Incidentally, I have here one of these. It's almost like a Stay Bright pad. It's a paint stripping pad. You can get them at Lowe's. This wood filler is so easy to sand that on the curved part, once you get the majority of the wood sanded off, you take one of these rough pads. You just kind of go back and forth on the curved part, and it'll sand it down for you. It takes a little longer, but it'll sand it down for you without damaging it from a rough sandpaper block or something like that. Works really good, but you do it the way you want. That's the best I can do on that. The corner looks really nice around there now, and all the wood's been filled in like it's supposed to be. Everything's been cleaned off the best I can do it. On the back here, she's nice and smooth. Looks really good there. Looks really good. Everything's good to go. Okay, it's time to start stripping. For those of you who follow my videos, you know that lacquer thinner is my favorite way to strip an old radio cabinet. It doesn't damage the wood, doesn't affect the glue any, and it just works really fast on some of these old cabinets. Look how quick it took for that to come off. And I like to soak a rag in it. If I find that it's really going to work, just soak a rag in it and then just start wiping, and all that wood grain starts to appear. I just love it. Just pour the old lacquer thinner right on the cabinet. Just let it sit for a little while, and it just starts coming off like a big dog. Look at that. Good stuff. Just be sure to do it outside, because this stuff does have some fumes to it. Looking really nice, isn't it? Another way to do this is to go ahead and pour your lacquer thinner on, then just spread it around with a paintbrush or a foam rubber, one of those foam rubber type brushes, and just let it sit for a few seconds. And if the finish cooperates, it'll just start coming right off. Just let her sit. Just pour it right on there. Let me pour a little more on here, just a little bit. It doesn't take a ton of it. Once you realize it, it'll start removing it. It does not take a ton. And it does not damage that wood, which is the thing I'm most concerned about. I don't want to work like a dog on the cabinet trying to get it good and then, mess around and screw everything up again. Then, of course, there's the abrasive pad, which helps a lot too. It helps get any of the stubborn stuff off. Look how good that cabinet's beginning to look already. Man, I'll tell you what, if everything goes as planned, which it sometimes does not. If everything goes as planned, we're going to have some nice looking cabinet here in the very near future. Alright, I just poured some more lacquer thinner on a nice clean rag, and we're going to give it the final wipe down on the top here. I'm having a little trouble getting the finish off along this edge right here. But if it turns out to be nice and smooth, it won't matter, because this is all going to be dark anyway. The side, the top, all the way down to the other side. And of course these fluted columns. The only light colored area will be the front. At least that's the plan. From here on out, it'll be a little more tedious on the stripping, because the fluted columns have to be cleaned down in those grooves and everything. So I think what I'll do is knock off this video here, and the next time you see this thing, it should be totally stripped and ready for toning and for clear lacquer. So until then, this is John.